He is known for being an American pragmatist and objective idealist philosopher. He is recognized for his philosophy of loyalty and his defense of absolutism. His name is Josiah Royce. Once upon a time, in the vibrant intellectual landscape of early 20th century America, there lived a philosopher named Josiah Royce. Born in 1855, Royce emerged as a leading figure in American pragmatism and objective idealism, leaving an indelible mark on the philosophical landscape of his time. Driven by a deep sense of purpose and a quest for wisdom, Royce dedicated his life to understanding the complexities of human existence. His philosophy was characterized by a unique melding of pragmatism and idealism, seeking to bridge the gap between abstract ideals and practical reality. Royce believed that true knowledge and meaning could be found through the active engagement with the world, and that individuals had a moral duty to strive for righteousness, charity, courage, patience, and loyalty. Royce's profound insights and eloquent words resonated far beyond the realm of philosophy. His stirring quote, "The human race now passes through one of its great crises. New ideas, new issues, a new call for men to carry on the work of righteousness, of charity, of courage, of patience, and of loyalty," was even quoted in the 1936 State of the Union address by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This testament to Royce's enduring influence highlighted the urgency of the times and the need for individuals to rise to the challenges of their generation. Beyond his philosophical pursuits, Royce's intellectual curiosity extended to the realm of history. He was a rare breed of philosopher who also delved into the intricacies of historical analysis, with a particular focus on the American West. His writings shed light on the rich tapestry of the nation's past, offering valuable insights into the development and identity of the American people. Josiah Royce's legacy as a philosopher, historian, and advocate for moral responsibility continues to inspire generations of thinkers to this day. His profound exploration of loyalty, his fusion of pragmatism and idealism, and his unwavering commitment to the betterment of humanity make him a true protagonist in the intellectual history of America. Josiah Royce, a renowned philosopher, had a unique understanding of the concept of the absolute, setting it apart from the ideas of other thinkers such as Hegel and Bradley. Unlike their abstract notions, Royce's absolute was personal, temporal, and actively engaged in interpretation. It served as the foundation of community, preserving the past, sustaining the present, and envisioning the future possibilities, imbuing them with value as the ideal of community. Inspired by Charles Sanders Peirce's concept of agapism or evolutionary love, Royce saw the divine activity of the absolute as a force of love in the world. He believed that through our actions, we could experience the absolute in the irrevocability of each and every deed. The realization that our acts cannot be undone forces us to confront the absolute in its temporal necessity. Royce recognized that the philosophical idea of the absolute was essential for a coherent system of thought. However, he emphasized that for practical purposes and a meaningful ethical life, what human beings truly need is an ongoing will to interpret. The act of interpretation, driven by the interpreter spirit, another name for the absolute, forms the temporal ground for all our actions. In daily life, Royce's philosophy encourages us to embrace the inevitability of our deeds and to approach them with responsibility and mindfulness. By understanding that our actions have lasting consequences, we can strive to make choices aligned with the values of community and love. Rather than getting caught up in abstract philosophical concepts, Royce reminds us that successful interpretation and ethical living stem from our will to interpret and engage with the world around us. Josiah Royce, a prominent philosopher, found himself in the midst of a heated debate over his concept of God. Returning to California to speak at the Philosophical Union at Berkeley, Royce aimed to defend his beliefs against the criticisms of George Holmes Howison, Joseph LeConte, and Sidney Mises. The New York Times dubbed this encounter as a battle of the giants. In his defense, Royce presented a new modal version of his proof for the reality of God. He based his argument on the notion of ignorance rather than error, emphasizing the fragmentariness of individual existence rather than its epistemological uncertainty. However, Howison vehemently attacked Royce's doctrine, claiming that it failed to provide an ontological standing for the individual in relation to the absolute. This, according to Howison, rendered Royce's idealism a form of pernicious impersonalism. Royce never intended for his philosophy to lead to this result. In response to Howison's criticism, he penned a lengthy supplementary essay to further explain his position. Additionally, he delved deeper into the concept of the individual person in his Gifford Lectures, which he later published under the title, The World and the Individual. Simultaneously, Royce faced a staunch assault on his hypothetical absolutism from James, another prominent philosopher. Reflecting on his engagement with the philosophy of Bradley, Royce acknowledged that it may have led him to a stronger emphasis on the absolute than was warranted. He also considered the influence of his persistent study of Spinoza, which may have had similar effects on his thinking. The debate surrounding Royce's conception of God serves as a reminder of the complexities and challenges inherent in grappling with philosophical ideas. It highlights the importance of engaging in rigorous debate and critically examining one's beliefs. Royce's response to criticism and his continued development of his philosophy demonstrate the value of intellectual growth and the pursuit of a deeper understanding of divinity and existence. Josiah Royce, a renowned philosopher, presented a unique perspective on being and existence. He challenged three prevailing conceptions of being: realism, mysticism, and critical rationalism, and proposed a fourth conception of being. Realism viewed being as independent, while mysticism and critical rationalism focused on immediacy and objective validity, respectively. Royce argued that each of these conceptions fell into contradiction. Instead, he suggested that being is to be uniquely related to a whole. According to Royce, being is not just about the individual or the whole, but about the unique relationship that exists between them. He emphasized that terms are constituted by their relations and individuals are uniquely constituted by their relations to other individuals and the whole. In his Gifford lectures, Royce further explored the temporal aspect of these relations, highlighting how we learn to think about succession and space through differences and directionality within unified and variable time spans. Royce saw the will as the inner dynamism that extends beyond itself into the future and acts upon the past. He believed that space and abstract descriptions were a distortion of this dynamism, and metaphysical errors arose from taking these abstractions literally. Royce considered philosophy, with its descriptive approach, as a kind of fiction. However, he recognized that ideas, when considered dynamically and temporally, have their own activities and temporal forms. Narrative presentation, rather than mere description, was more effective in capturing the world of appreciation, as the world's play occurs in time. Royce acknowledged the limitation of conceptual thought, which compelled philosophers to prioritize logic over integrating psychological and appreciated experiences into their doctrines. He argued that there was a parallelism between conceptual and perceptual experiences, allowing us to use the idealization of our inner purposes as a guide to connect with the purposes of others and the larger whole. While we may appreciate the sense of fulfillment in serving a larger whole, we cannot directly experience the greater whole to which our experiences belong. In conclusion, Josiah Royce's philosophy offers a unique perspective on being and existence. By emphasizing the relationship between the individual and the whole, recognizing the temporal nature of experiences, and advocating for the integration of psychological and appreciated experiences in philosophy, Royce provides insights that can help us navigate the complexities of daily life. His ideas encourage us to consider the dynamic and temporal nature of our experiences, appreciate the interconnectedness of individuals and the larger whole, and find fulfillment in serving a purpose beyond ourselves. Josiah Royce, a renowned philosopher, developed a profound philosophy of loyalty that has important implications for our daily lives. His concept of loyalty was a universal interpretation of Christian love, encompassing the devotion to causes greater than ourselves. Royce believed that as individuals form loyalties and dedicate themselves to a higher purpose, humanity can strive towards the creation of a perfected, beloved community, where every person shares and thrives. In Royce's moral philosophy, loyalty acts as a virtue that shapes our personal development. As we commit ourselves to causes beyond our immediate self-interest, we become part of something greater and contribute to the well-being of future generations. This idea aligns with the concept of a kingdom of ends, where the highest ideal is the pursuit of a harmonious community. Royce's philosophy emphasizes that this ideal can be experienced and realized through our acts of loyal service. The realization of this ideal extends beyond personal experiences and points to a wider reality. Royce suggests that falling in love exemplifies this spiritual union, which transcends individual existence and connects us to a higher level of consciousness. The existence of a unified consciousness, encompassing our separate identities, supports the notion that loyalty is not merely a devotion to a myth but a concrete experience that extends beyond human limitations. Royce's philosophy can be understood through his concept of absolute pragmatism, which asserts that ideals are practical and become more meaningful as they encompass broader aspects of life. The concretization of these ideals is essential to our conscious lives, and denying their existence renders our experiences inexplicable. By recognizing the concretization of ideals, we are compelled to acknowledge and consider the larger intelligible structures within which these ideals exist, revealing the purposive character of the divine will. Ultimately, Royce argues that our personal character reaches its highest point when we recognize that our ultimate loyalty lies in loyalty itself. It is through serving causes that may seem lost or challenging that we learn the true essence of loyalty. This philosophy encourages us to consider the impact of our actions on others and strive to uphold the loyalty and goodness present in each individual. Josiah Royce never adhered to the traditional absolutist approach in his methodology or ontology. However, it took some time for his peers to recognize this shift in his later thinking. While some believe that Royce had fundamentally changed his views, the evidence suggests otherwise. Throughout his career, Royce remained committed to his hypothetical ontology, temporalism, personalism, and social metaphysics based on the fourth conception of being. These concepts, along with the operation of agapic loyalty and the unity of finite purposes in the ideal of the beloved community, formed the foundation of his philosophical framework. Royce's ethics and religious philosophy evolved and matured over time, but the core principles remained intact. He aimed to provide an idealistic perspective on the will, countering the pessimistic treatment of Schopenhauer. Royce sought to rescue Pauline Christianity, adapting it to a universalized and modernized form that could withstand the critiques of Nietzsche and others who reduced will to power. His work on the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, and the communion of saints emphasized the temporal nature of these concepts, highlighting the importance of shared memory and hope within a universal community. In delving into the reality of this invisible community, Royce may have been seeking communion with his departed son Christopher and his close friend William James, both of whom had passed away in 1910. Although Royce kept his personal tragedies separate from his published work, the grief he experienced likely influenced and deepened his insights, amplifying the quality of his hope. Two significant influences on Royce's thought were Charles Sanders Peirce and William James. It can be argued that Peirce's ideas entered the American academic sphere primarily through Royce's teaching and writing, eventually influencing his students as well. Peirce even reviewed Royce's work, The Religious Aspect of Philosophy. While some have claimed that Peirce supervised Royce's Ph.D., this is impossible as Peirce arrived at Johns Hopkins in 1879. Royce's philosophy, with its emphasis on community, loyalty, and the pursuit of idealism, has enduring relevance in our daily lives. By recognizing the interconnectedness of individuals and the importance of shared values and beliefs, we can strive to build a more unified and compassionate society. Royce's insights remind us of the power of hope and the potential for personal growth and transformation within a broader community context.
Do you want to explore more philosophers? Who do you want to see featured next? Subscribe and leave a comment below to let me know. I'll see you in the next video.